Teamwork isn't just nice to have in business, it's the undisputed competitive advantage. When your team members work as a unified force, your whole operation benefits through higher productivity, thriving creativity, and unstoppable momentum. Welcome to the Impactful Teamwork Podcast, where we share with you strategies and tactics to help you develop game-changing teams so that you and your business can make a real difference in the world. Welcome back to Impactful Teamwork. My name is Julia Felton, and I'm going to be your host and guide for the next 20 minutes while we delve into everything teamwork. And I am so excited to be back recording. Some of you might know, those that you listen to us regularly, I pre-recorded a number of shows because I've been away on vacation and out of the office for a while. It feels like a long time since I've recorded one of these podcasts. And today I want to spend some time actually reflecting and sharing with you some of the lessons I've learned in the last couple of weeks, because once I came back from my vacation, which was a great opportunity to renew myself, refresh and re-energize myself, I was then running a corporate event for a group of technology leaders with the horses, which was absolutely fantastic. And what was amazing was that these technology leaders had flown in from around the world, and the experience with the horses was the capstone part of their 3 or 4 month leadership program. And what it did was really bring all the learning together. We got to understand what the client had been learning through their program, and then was able to take all of those lessons and embed them into the experience that we created with the horses. And that was really transformational for the client, because when we're talking and teaching about leadership and teamwork, it can become a little bit elusive. They're words that we use, but actually the only way that you really learn any of this stuff is by actually doing it and experiencing it firsthand. That is exactly what we were doing. So as I said, the client called the event transformational, and everyone took away a load of ahas and insights that importantly they can put in place back in the workplace. And I think that is part of the magic of the work with the horses. It is making it really relatable. How you show up in the arena with the horse, how does that mirror exactly what you're doing back in the workplace? And I think one of my superpowers is that I'm able to help clients bridge that gap between an experience with the horse, as I said, in an arena, and how does that behavior also show up in the workplace, and how is that playing out? So that was incredible. And from there, I then went on to Farnborough Airshow. So some of you may or may not know that my early career was in the hospitality sector, and I've worked in a number of hotels around the world, as well as being a hotel consultant. But in the last kind of 7 or 8 years, I've started to do some freelance work back in the hospitality sector, alongside my leadership development and teamwork business. And some of you might ask why I decided to do that. And it's exactly for the reason that I've just explained, that live experience. If I'm just sitting in my office all day, training and coaching and working with the horses, teaching my clients about leadership and showing them about leadership, I then don't really get to embody leadership and teamwork skills myself. So I decided to make a really conscious decision to go back and do some freelance work in the hospitality sector. I describe it as my live learning lab, where I get to go in and lead and create and manage teams of often younger people, Gen X, millennials. And so that keeps my skills really current in how to manage, inspire, engage, motivate team members. So I thought what I would do today is share with you some of the lessons that I learned from the Farnborough Airshow, because, as I said, I've recently been at the Farnborough Airshow. I was invited to run a big catering chalet for a client I've worked with for a number of years. And for those of you that don't know, Farnborough Airshow is one of the largest aerospace shows in the world. It happens biennially. So one year it's in Farnborough, one year it's in Paris, one year it's in Farnborough, one year it's in Paris. This year, an incredible 81.5 billion pounds worth of deals was done at the show. So it's a really big deal for the aerospace industry. And it's really a time when they really make a huge amount of revenue and profits and secure those deals that are going to support their cash flow going forward. And there's somewhere in the region of 1,500 exhibitors that are prospecting for business. And the biggest of those companies then also have their own corporate hospitality chalets. So my particular client has a fixed structure at Farnborough that they invested in to have their corporate hospitality chalet. So this isn't something sort of tent that you put up. This is a huge fixed permanent structure on Farnborough Airfield. And why did they do that? Because they realized that if they could create an incredible experience and bring their clients into a space on the air show that was very luxurious, it's incredibly well air conditioned, it's 3 floors, it has 2 restaurants, we have a bistro, a buffet, we do breakfast every day, we do lunch every day, they have an exhibition center with canapes and champagne reception. If they could create this amazing experience that they could bring their clients to, then they realize that their prospect of engaging and nurturing that client to get to a point where they might want to sign a deal with them was massively increased. So the catering team in the chalet is a massive partner of the aerospace company that we're working for. They don't get their success if we as the catering providers and deliverers don't do our job well. If we provide poor service, poor food, a bad experience, then that's what the client remembers. And of course, then there's a prospect that the deal might not go ahead. It was with some trepidation that I agreed to go back for this client and work for them. I have worked for this client now at the Farnborough and Paris air shows now for about the last 6 or 7 years. I love working with the client. They're a lovely client, really easy to work with, very high standards. This was me doing teamwork in action real time, right? I had a team of 24 people that came to work with me that I had never met before, that I had to create into a high performance team in a really short period of time. And in fact, really, pretty much off the hoof. I had less than a day to take these 24 people, figure out roles and responsibilities for them, give them some training, and get them into the right space to deliver amazing service for this client. And I think what's really interesting is that we often think that creating high performance teams takes a long period of time. And yet we were able to create a connective, cohesive, collaborative team of young people working together in less than 24 hours. And I think what's really interesting is, and I've shared, I think previously, probably on this podcast, I've seen this happen in experiences with the horses as well, where a group of individuals come together who don't know each other. But when we are approaching leadership and teamwork with attention and direction and energy and congruence, then actually we can achieve amazing things really quickly. And with the horses, I've seen groups of people that don't know each other get horses over an obstacle course really simply, where a kind of intact team has really struggled. This was the challenge I had at Farnborough Airshow. And how could I get these 24 young people all working together to create this connected, collaborative, cohesive team that wanted to work together? So I wanted to share kind of 7 lessons that I think I pulled out of that experience. So one is about sharing the leadership. A lot of you will know I often talk about shared leadership. So within the chalet, it was 3 stories high. There was no way one person could oversee everything. It's just too dynamic, too many moving parts. And one of the things that I do know about the client that I work for there is that you need to be very adaptable and move on the hoof. These business deals are happening at lightning speed. Things are changing. People are running late. People are running early. All of a sudden, they meet somebody. They want to invite another person for lunch. Nothing is static. Everything is dynamic. From that position, there's no way that one person can control everything and influence everything. So I had to split the leadership down between us. So while I took overall responsibility for the chalet, I had a chef who looked after all the ordering and everything that went on there. I had a restaurant manager who looked after my a la carte restaurant and the meeting rooms. And I had a bistro manager that looked after my buffets on the top deck. So what did that mean? That meant that each of us actually were looking after much smaller teams of anywhere between somewhere about seven-ish people. So that made managing and looking after and motivating a team much easier. And once we decided to split the leadership down, then we clearly needed to have defined job roles, things that we were more expert in. So for no big surprise, the chef looked after the responsibility for all the food ordering, all the supplies, and all the preparation of food, and everything related to the kitchen. So that took a massive weight off my mind because I knew I didn't need to worry about that. He had that totally covered. Then I had a lady called Kath, and Kath looked after the a la carte restaurant and the breakfast survey. And Kath has run many restaurants. That's an area of her expertise. So she was easily able to shift and adjust when all of a sudden the client came in with more people on the table for lunch than had been planned. When we unexpectedly served way more meals than were planned, she was able to liaise quite easily with the chef and get all of that sorted. So that ran really smoothly. And then I had my bistro manager on the top deck who was looking after all of the buffets up there. So each of us had a different thing that we could look after. And again, with the team members, this was really important. I needed to then split my team members up between these different areas. So I had some girls looking after the meeting rooms. As I said, meetings super important during this event. And the client basically had back-to-back meetings in 8 meeting rooms all day, every day. And the girls looking after the meeting rooms, their role was to go in, make sure the clients always had fresh water in those rooms, take the tea and coffee orders, and just get the clients everything they wanted. But they almost had to be invisible doing it because they didn't want to interfere with any types of discussions going on. So it was a really vital role that had to get done within the chalet. Obviously, I had people within the restaurant that were looking after the restaurant service, a 3-course lunch there. So again, they had to be very discreet in the background, taking orders, but also getting the food out really quickly to the clients so that they could get on and get to the next meeting. And the same on the bistro level as well. I had some staff up there, their role being to make sure that the buffet was always looking opulent with lots of food and continually replenishing it and making sure that looked like a really abundant experience up there. And finally, I had the lower deck where the exhibition center was, where I also had a team of people whose role was partly serving some breakfast. We had these 5 big automated tea and coffee machines within the chalet. So they were doing a lot of creating specialist cappuccinos and lattes and espressos and stuff for the client, as well as looking after the exhibition center, where we had a canapé and champagne reception every night. So people were allocated to different floors and different roles. And that was really challenging because I'd never met any of these people before. I had to quite quickly make an assessment about who I thought might work best in a particular area, what their skill set was. And of course, I asked them some questions to try and determine that, but also had to get some sense quite quickly of the dynamics and the relationship between team members. Some people that turned up on the team knew each other, some didn't. So who were the best people to put together that could work most effectively together? So first key lesson was about showing the leadership. Second key lesson was about clearly defining job roles for everyone within the team. I think the third lesson that I learned was explaining the purpose of the role and how the role fitted into the overall. Because A lot of the team, as I said, were Gen X, millennials. So I really needed to provide them some context and purpose for what was going on and why. Help them understand about what the air show was about, why the client was there, how they needed to behave in order for the client to get success. So when people understood the full picture of the importance of this air show and what their role is, their vital role was within creating this incredible experience for the client's guests, then they had more motivation to go forward. We all know that people buy with emotions, not logic. So I helped the team members understand the importance of creating this really welcoming, friendly, but very efficient service going on so that the clients could get on with business. That was really important as well for the team members to understand also the importance of the whole aerospace industry, how my client fitted into that, what their role was, the kinds of products and services they provided as well. So contextualizing everything was really important, and it gave people an understanding of what their purpose was and therefore how their role contributed to making that purpose happen with the event. I think the fourth lesson that I'd like to share is the one about paying attention. We've talked a lot on this podcast about the ABCDE of leadership and that A of attention and how you need to pay attention. And you need to pay attention just to self, to others, and the environment. And as the chalet manager, I really had to role model the importance of paying attention on all levels. And what's really interesting to me is that as a leader and manager, is when your team know that you're really paying attention to them and what they're doing, I think it helps them feel more valued. They know that they're getting noticed. And I recognize when they do great things. And that makes them more inspired and engaged and want to do more better work. And that really ties into the fifth lesson, which is about saying thank you. Because I'm paying attention and noticing, I can quickly give praise when team members are doing things well so that they feel appreciated and recognized for all of the effort they're putting in. And the weather at Farnborough this year wasn't as hot and sweltering as it has been in previous years. It's acknowledging that some of them were working within the meeting rooms. That was an area that was, with the best respect, a bit dull and dingy, right? There were no windows outside. And some of the team were working on the top deck, much more open air. They got to see all the aero displays every day. So it's recognizing that some people were working in less than optimal conditions while others had some great conditions to work in. And so it's recognizing and appreciating where people are working and what's going on. The sixth lesson that I'd like to share is all about keep asking for feedback and suggestions. Day one, everyone starts doing their job. And one of the things I said to people really early on was, I need your feedback. If something's not working, let's do it differently. I wasn't wedded to the way that we had to run the chalet and the way individual tasks needed to be done. And I always encourage people to come up with ideas because typically they're much better than mine. So allowing your team members to provide feedback on better ways to do things. Let's leverage everyone's collective wisdom for the benefit of the whole. After the first day, people came up with some great ideas about different ways that we could lay out things, different operations we could put in place that would make working conditions easier for people and operationally make them better. And of course, the result of that is that team members feel like they're contributing and that they're able to influence what's going on. And from my perspective, it is ensuring the client got even better service than they were already getting. And the final lesson that I just want to share is about model the way. As leaders, we need to model the way. We need to lose the ego. We need to be able to step in and do what needs to be done when it needs to be done. So that might mean stepping in and doing the washing up, taking out the trash and the rubbish, doing whatever needs to be done to get the job done. And I think when team members see you realizing that no activity is above you, that you can actually engage in every activity as well, it immediately brings them on side and they're more likely to engage with the tasks they need to do. And in fact, I got some feedback right towards the end of the week from somebody that was, gosh, you work really hard, Julie. You're always getting involved with everything. Hopefully not in an interfering way for them, but just showing them the way that we need to operate. And I'm super proud of this team of young people, because when we met with the client on the last day, and the client actually came and did and was really gracious and came and did a debrief and thanked the team for their great work, she concluded that this had been the best team that she had ever had working for her at any of the air shows. And what I loved about it was that all of the team got on. They really helped each other and they really worked as a team. Remember the word team. Together, everyone achieves more. And people were covering each other's roles when people had to go to lunch. They were supporting each other. And that's what made a really collaborative environment. It made the client feel really cared for and supported. They knew that whatever they asked was going to happen. And the client really appreciated that we had created a little ecosystem. Within her ecosystem of the chalet, we created this little catering ecosystem where everyone was working synergistically together, because everyone recognized that our collective success was dependent on each of us doing our role, but also supporting each other in our role. And so we were really modeling what happens in nature. Remember, we talked about nature is totally interdependent. You can't do your role without somebody else. We couldn't have run the restaurant without the kitchen. We couldn't have prepared the dishes without somebody washing up the dishes, everything like that. The whole catering system is a little ecosystem within the bigger ecosystem of the catering chalet. So I totally loved and enjoyed running and using Farnborough as my live learning lab for leadership and creating high performance teams. And I think, as I said, it always shows me how, with the right attitude and the right understanding, and team members feeling that they understand why they're doing what they're doing, how it's contributing to the whole, what their role is, how things come together and how they contribute, how quickly you can bring together and create a connective, cohesive team that works collaboratively together and gets the great results that we were able to give our client, as I said, who was super excited and happy with what happened last week. So my question to you today is, are you using these high performance strategies in your business? And which of the 7 maybe do you need to focus on and give more time, energy, and attention to? And if you don't employ team members and you're listening to this podcast, you can use these same strategies to engage suppliers and customers. Just to summarize, the 7 key lessons that I learned about how to create this cohesive team were about sharing the leadership, having clearly defined job roles, explaining the purpose and setting the context, paying attention to what is happening, seeking feedback and saying thank you, and asking for direction, and modeling the way and losing the ego. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Impactful Teamwork. Remember that we have a quiz, the Impactful Teamwork quiz, that you can always take to find out how you rate in the areas of connection and collaboration and creativity and cohesiveness within your organization. You'll find a link in the show notes to that. If you'd love to have a conversation about how you can improve teamwork within your organization, please just do reach out to me at julia@businesshorsepower.com. Always love to chat to you. And indeed, if anyone would like to become a guest on the show, we're always looking for guests who can share examples like I have today of how they have developed high-performing teams, shown great leadership skills in a really practical sense. Once again, thank you for your time and energy, and we'll catch you again next week. Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to the Impactful Teamwork podcast. Please stay tuned for future episodes and do subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating on your favorite platform. Recommendations are essential for attracting new listeners.
Please follow us on social media at Julia Felton and at Business Horsepower. And if there are any topics you'd like us to cover on future episodes, please do let me know. Remember, you and your team are always making an impact. What impact will you make today?